Have you ever taken a sip of the milk in your fridge, checked the use-by date that says you still have 5 days left, and wondered why it tastes like licking a wet cardboard box? Or worse, have you ever felt that violent, internal rolling storm in your gut an hour after drinking a flat white, even though you paid an extra $1 for the digestive-friendly carton? Most Aussies treat milk as an automatic purchase. You walk into Woolies or Coles, reach into the glass chiller on complete autopilot, and throw whatever $4 plastic jug is on special straight into your trolley. You assume that because it is sitting in an Australian supermarket, it must be wholesome, fresh, and straight from a picturesque green paddock in Gippsland or the Adelaide Hills. But what if the white liquid sloshing around in your morning coffee has been cooked so aggressively to survive corporate supply chains that its natural flavour and heat-sensitive nutrients were destroyed weeks before it hit the shelf? By the time you finish this investigation, you will know exactly which household brands are cutting corners, which major supermarket labels are playing cheeky legal games with their packaging claims, and why one of the most expensive, health-conscious bottles in the fridge was caught in independent testing containing industrial plastic chemicals. I will show you how to read between the lines of clever dairy marketing so you never waste another cent on watered-down, heavily processed junk. And make sure you stick around for the worst offender near the end of our naughty list, because it is an absolute household staple that millions of Australian parents buy for their kids every single week, under the delusion that it is a healthy morning treat. Before we start naming names and dropping brand logos, we need to lift the lid on how modern industrial dairy actually works in Australia. Fresh milk, in its pure state, is a complex, living food. It is packed with natural butterfat, delicate proteins, enzymes, and a distinct flavour profile that changes depending on what the cows ate that week. But big industrial dairy processing hates natural variation. Corporate logistics managers want a product that is identical, indestructible, and capable of sitting on a delivery truck for days without spoiling. To achieve that, the industry developed ultra-high temperature processing and aggressive mechanical manipulation. First, they take milk from thousands of different farms, strip all the fat out using massive industrial centrifuges, and then add specific percentages of fat back in to create standard whole or skim varieties. Then comes homogenization. They blast the liquid through microscopic nozzles at thousands of pounds of pressure per square inch. This shatters the natural fat globules into tiny, uniform fragments, so the cream no longer rises to the top. It gives the liquid a standardized texture, but it also permanently alters how the fat interacts with your digestive tract. Next, they heat treat it. Standard pasteurization in Australia requires heating milk to around 72 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds. That kills harmful bacteria while preserving most of the subtle flavour and nutrient structure. But many massive industrial brands push temperatures much higher, using permeate fractions, a watery, lactose-rich byproduct of milk filtration, to stretch out their yields and standardise protein levels. Think of it like taking a fresh, vine-ripened farm tomato, pureeing it, boiling it into a thick paste, watering it back down with industrial byproduct, and then calling it fresh farm tomato juice. It might technically come from a farm, but the soul of the product has been completely processed out of existence. When cows are kept in high-density indoor operations and fed a continuous diet of grain, soy, and silage rather than fresh green pasture, their milk loses its natural richness. The ratio of beneficial omega-3 fatty acids and conjugated linoleic acid drops off a cliff. What you are left with is a pale, thin, watery liquid that relies on aggressive processing just to stay stable on a supermarket shelf. Now that you know the chemical shell game happening behind those sliding glass doors, let's take a hard look at the 11 brands that simply do not deserve your hard-earned Aussie dollars. Let's kick off our breakdown with number 11, Woolworths Everyday Value Milk. At around $3.10 for a 2-litre bottle, it is the budget king that sits in almost every Aussie fridge at some point. The generic blue cap feels like a sensible financial choice when inflation is biting hard. But where does it actually come from? Woolworths sources from massive industrial dairy co-ops across Victoria and New South Wales running intensive operations. To keep prices dirt cheap, yields are maximised through grain-heavy barn feeding. The result is a thin, watery liquid that lacks any natural fat complexity. Choice testing and consumer reviews regularly point out that generic store-brand milk goes sour days before its printed expiry date due to rapid micro-spoiling in light permeable plastic containers. You pay less up front, but pouring a third of the bottle down the sink makes that cheap price tag an illusion. Moving up the ladder to number 10, Devondale Long Life Milk. Owned by Saputo, this blue and white staple is found everywhere from Woolies to local IGAs. People grab it because it lasts for months in the pantry. But to get that indestructible shelf life, Devondale subjects the milk to ultra-high temperature processing, blasting it at over 138 degrees Celsius. Lab analyses show this intense thermal shock degrades heat-sensitive B vitamins and denatures delicate whey proteins, while creating a distinct, scorched, cooked taste. Customer reviews complain about a chalky mouthfeel and a strange sweet aftertaste caused by caramelized milk sugars. Paying over $2.20 a litre for overcooked dead dairy isn't convenience, it's a compromise on basic nutrition. Number 9 brings us to Zymal Lactose Free by Paul's. Promoted heavily to Aussies with sensitive stomachs, it promises all the goodness of real milk without the gut drama. But here is the catch. Zymal simply adds the lactase enzyme to break lactose down into glucose and galactose. If your digestive issues stem from A1, casein proteins, or whey sensitivity rather than lactose, Zymal does absolutely nothing to stop the bloating. Furthermore, splitting those sugars makes the milk taste unnaturally sweet and causes a faster spike in blood glucose levels. At nearly $4.50 a litre, you are paying a massive premium for an enzyme addition that might not even solve your stomach distress. At number 8, we have oat-flavoured milk. A cult classic in news agencies and milk bars across New South Wales and Queensland, oat markets itself on pure nostalgia and bold flavour. But turn the carton around and read the fine print. A single 500 milliliter carton of oat chocolate contains over 50 grams of sugar, the equivalent of 12 teaspoons of white sugar dumped into a single serving. It uses thickeners like vegetable gum 407, carrageenan, which gastroenterology studies have linked to gut lining inflammation and distress. You aren't drinking fresh dairy, you are downing a heavily emulsified liquid dessert disguised as a post-sports recovery drink. Number 7 is Paul's Physical. Positioned as a high-calcium, high-protein choice for active families, it commands a top-shelf price tag in Coles and Woolworths. But how do they get those protein numbers up? They fortify the milk with ultra-filtered milk solids and permeate fractions. Instead of natural milk from well-nourished cows, you get a reconstructed concoction adjusted in a factory lab. Consumer reviews frequently mention a heavy, chemical-like texture that coats the mouth. If you are itching to check your own fridge right now, hit that subscribe button, because the claims on these labels only get wilder from here. At number 6 is Complete Dairy High Protein Milk. Marketed directly to gym goers and health enthusiasts, this brand charges upwards of $4.80 for a litre, boasting 70% more protein and 25% less sugar. But independent testing on ultra-filtered dairy products has raised serious concerns regarding industrial plasticizers. Late 2023 independent testing on heavily processed, plastic-bottled high-protein milks revealed trace levels of phthalates, chemical compounds leached from industrial processing equipment and plastic tubing during high-pressure filtration. Phthalates are known endocrine disruptors linked to hormonal imbalances. Paying top dollar for engineered health milk that carries plastic leach risk is a bitter pill to swallow. Number 5. ALDI Farmdale Milk. ALDI built its Aussie reputation on rock-bottom prices, and Farmdale is their flagship dairy line. At under $3.00 for 2 litres, it seems unbeatable. However, ALDI's supply chain relies on aggressive cost-cutting contracts with major processors. This operational squeeze has led to recurring quality control issues. Food Standards Australia-New Zealand records show multiple regional recalls over the years involving store-brand dairy lines due to chemical sanitizer contamination from unwashed factory pipes and packaging seal failures. Complaints on Aussie consumer forums highlight milk turning stringy or clumping well before the date stamp. Cheap milk stops being cheap when quality control fails. Number 4. Coles Perform Protein Milk. Coles launched this store-brand wellness product to target high-protein shoppers at a lower price point than branded alternatives. But to achieve high protein levels while keeping costs down, Coles relies on imported milk protein concentrates and heavy pasteurization. Lab tests on generic protein-fortified milks show that aggressive processing denatures the amino acid profiles, rendering them less bioavailable than native dairy proteins. Customers describe the taste as metallic, thin, and chemical. It is a classic case of corporate formulation designed to hit a marketing metric on a label rather than nourish your body. Number 3. Costco Kirkland Signature Conventional Milk. Sold in massive 2-packs, this is the ultimate bulk buy for big families. But this is industrial factory farm milk produced at maximum scale. The cows are predominantly grain-fed in feedlot conditions, leading to an unhealthy ratio of inflammatory omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids in the milk fat. Furthermore, because it is packaged in giant, thin HDPE plastic jugs designed for high-speed shipping, shoppers regularly report a strong plastic taste absorbing into the fat layer of the milk. Saving 20 cents a litre isn't worth serving your family industrial grain-fed milk tainted with plastic notes. Number 2. Up and Go Liquid Breakfast by Sanitarium. While technically sold as a liquid breakfast, millions of Aussies treat this as a convenient milk substitute on the morning commute. The front label screams high fibre and protein. The reality inside the liquid context is shocking. Water, skim milk powder, cane sugar, maltodextrin, soy protein, vegetable oils, and synthetic gums. It contains more seed oils and processed sugars than actual whole dairy. Clinical nutritionists regularly point out that drinking processed sugar and vegetable oil emulsified with milk powder creates a rapid insulin spike followed by a mid-morning crash. Calling this a healthy breakfast milk alternative is one of the greatest marketing illusions in Australian grocery history. And coming in at number 1 on our avoid list, Nesquik chocolate milk powder and ready to drink. Made by Nestlé, this iconic yellow box has dominated Australian pantries for decades. Parents add it to plain milk, assuming it helps kids get their daily calcium. But Nesquik is over 75% sugar by weight, loaded with artificial flavourings and processed with synthetic colourings. Nestlé has faced decades of global consumer boycotts, regulatory fines and public health scrutiny over misleading nutritional claims aimed at children. Feeding a child 2 tablespoons of processed chocolate sugar every morning conditions their palate to reject plain, natural foods. The cute rabbit on the tin is masking a high fructose habit that does absolute zero favours for your family's long-term health. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. After wading through a sea of over-processed, sugar-laden, factory-farmed dairy, it is easy to feel like the supermarket fridge is a complete minefield. But the good news is that Australia actually produces some of the finest, cleanest, and most ethically crafted milk on the planet, if you know where to look. These 5 brands prove that when you respect the cows, preserve the natural fat structures, and ditch the chemical shortcuts, milk isn't just tolerable, it becomes a genuinely nutrient-dense superfood that tastes incredible. Starting our good list at number 5, Norco Real Whole Milk. Norco is Australia's oldest surviving 100% farmer-owned dairy cooperative, operating since 1895 across northern New South Wales and Queensland. When you buy Norco, every single cent stays with local farming families rather than disappearing into a multinational corporate boardroom. They source from pasture-raised herds grazing on rich subtropical pastures. Norco avoids aggressive ultrafiltration, meaning you get pure, unadulterated milk with its natural seasonal variations intact. Sensory tests consistently rate it high for its smooth, creamy mouthfeel and clean, sweet finish that leaves no metallic aftertaste. Sitting at around $4.50 for 2 litres in Woolworths and Coles, it costs only slightly more than generic store brands, making it the most accessible and affordable step up for any household budget. The only minor downside is that because it is a traditional co-op, availability can sometimes fluctuate during severe East Coast flood seasons, but it remains the absolute gold standard for affordable daily dairy. At number 4, Organic Road grass-fed milk. Available in health food shops and select Harris Farm markets across the country, this brand represents a massive leap forward in ethical sourcing. The cows live on certified organic pastures where synthetic pesticides, herbicides, and chemical fertilizers are strictly banned. Because the herd grazes on a diverse diet of natural grasses and clover rather than grain, independent lab analyses show this milk contains up to 60% higher concentrations of omega-3 fatty acids and conjugated linoleic acid compared to standard supermarket options. It is gently pasteurized to preserve natural enzymes, resulting in a rich, velvety liquid with a subtle botanical sweetness. At roughly $4.80 per litre, it is certainly a premium purchase, but you are paying directly for pristine farming practices, zero chemical residues, and a vastly superior fatty acid profile that actively supports cardiovascular health. Number 3 brings us to Baramba Organics Full Cream Milk. Operating out of the fertile border region between Queensland and New South Wales, Baramba Organics is a certified organic powerhouse that handles everything from farm to bottle. They utilise low-temperature, long-time pasteurisation rather than harsh industrial flash heating. This gentle heating method protects the heat-sensitive immunoglobulins and natural digestive enzymes that make milk easy on human stomachs. Opening a bottle of Baramba reveals a noticeably rich texture and a golden hue caused by natural beta-carotene from fresh pasture grazing. Independent choice testing has repeatedly highlighted Barumba for its flawless purity and absence of synthetic additives. At about $5.20 for 2 litres in IGAs and specialty grocers, it offers an unbeatable balance between certified organic integrity and realistic daily pricing for families who want clean milk without paying extreme boutique prices. Coming in at number 2, Schofield's unhomogenized pure milk from Tilba Real Dairy. Produced on the pristine south coast of New South Wales, this is traditional milk made the way it was a century ago. Tilba rejects mechanical homogenization completely. When you open a bottle, you are greeted by a glorious, thick layer of natural cream floating right at the top that you have to shake back into the liquid or scoop out with a spoon for your morning coffee. Because the natural fat globules remain completely undisturbed, your digestive system processes the fat much more slowly, preventing the sudden stomach distress caused by shattered, homogenized fats. The flavor is extraordinary, deep, buttery, complex, and sweet. At roughly $3.90 a litre in Harris Farm markets and independent grocers, it is a premium product, but one taste will ruin flat, homogenized factory milk for you forever. And taking the absolute number 1 spot on our list, Schofield's A2 Farmhouse Milk by the A2 Milk Company, alongside local regional heritage producers like Mullaney Dairies, Farmer's Choice. The magic here revolves entirely around the A2 protein structure. Standard industrial cows produce milk dominated by A1 beta-casein protein, which breaks down during digestion into a peptide called BCM7, the exact compound responsible for causing inflammation, bloating, and gut discomfort in millions of people who wrongly assume they are lactose intolerant. A2 dairy comes exclusively from hand-selected cows that naturally yield only the original A2 protein type, which digests smoothly without triggering gut distress. Combined with minimal processing and pasture-raised herds, switching to pure A2 milk allows over 80% of people with self-reported dairy sensitivity to drink real, delicious milk again, completely symptom-free. It is readily available in every Woolies and Coles for around $4.00 for 2 litres. It is pure, honest, highly digestible dairy that completely changes how your body reacts to morning coffee. Now that you know which bottles deserve a spot in your fridge and which ones belong in the bin, here are 6 concrete rules to take with you on your next grocery run to Woolies, Coles or ALDI. First, flip the bottle over and check the ingredient list. Real milk should contain one single ingredient, pasteurized whole milk, with 0 added permeate, reconstituted solids, or vegetable gums. Second, look for the words non-homogenized or cream on top. This guarantees the fat structure remains intact and hasn't been blasted into microscopic bits under industrial pressure. Third, check the label for pasture-raised or 100% grass-fed certifications, which ensures a far superior ratio of healthy omega-3 fatty acids over grain-fed feedlot operations. Fourth, treat ultra-processed high-protein or flavored milks as liquid confectionery. If the sugar count exceeds 5 grams per 100 milliliters, you are drinking a dessert. Fifth, if regular dairy leaves you bloated, test a pure A2 protein milk before assuming you are lactose intolerant, because A1 peptide inflammation is often the real culprit. Sixth, choose opaque or dark-tinted packaging when possible, as clear plastic allows fluorescent supermarket lights to degrade delicate B vitamins within hours. The bottom line of this entire investigation is simple. The modern dairy industry spent decades convincing us that all milk is identical so they could cut production costs, overprocess the raw product, and maximize corporate profit margins. But milk is not just white water. The gap between cheap, ultra-filtered factory milk and pure, pasture-raised A2 or organic dairy is the difference between chronic digestive inflammation and genuine, deep nourishment. If this deep dive helped you see the supermarket dairy aisle with fresh eyes, hit that like button and share this video with a mate, because almost everyone you know is currently buying generic factory milk on total autopilot. Drop a comment below and tell me, which milk brand is sitting in your fridge right now, and are you throwing it out after watching this? Next up, we are taking this exact same investigative lens to the supplement aisle to expose what is really hiding in